Hello, hello, Dr. Summer Casmel.
Hello, Ashley Hirschfield. Welcome back, everybody, to another Leaders series. We are going to be discussing, actually, for the next few months, Ash, we're going to be discussing kind of the current hiring market, how to start attracting maybe some more applicants, and then really as the applicants come in, maybe smarter ways of interviewing, onboarding both with and without experience. And we're going to be going through the different positions, front office, back office, hygienist, kind of how do we onboard better and more successfully to, once we finally get these people in our offices, how do we retain them in the current hiring market? Because I don't know about you, Ash, I think really there's nobody who would happen to listen to this that the pandemic hasn't affected them one way or the other when things like hiring, retaining, getting hygienists, getting enough, all the patients are coming back, but I don't have enough team members. I don't know who this hasn't affected. I don't know what you've heard, but
Totally. And it's affecting teams in so many ways, right? Even from keeping your current team and increase, wages and increase costs across the board. And I mean, we're in a completely different world than we were 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, almost even than where we were, I feel like a year ago. Like, I just feel like truly with everything going on and inflation as well, I just, what I'm seeing out there just continues to surprise me. And I think so many of us, I think, feel pretty helpless. Yeah. And, I know that you and I, Ash, are not going to be able to have all the answers, or maybe even some of them. But what I have found is, I think the best thing for me and my psyche during this, which, by the way, I do need to say, this has affected me too. I am sitting in it just like every other doctor or team member who's listening to this. But the thing that has made me, I think, feel the most, the best as possible is to truly try to figure out how to control the things that I can and how to get really smart about some of the things that perhaps I just never gave much thought to before. And I do think we can all agree that if you can't kind of put your head up and really look around, address what's going on and start to get more creative, it is easy to just get left behind or have applicants go to other places. So I think that my hope with this is we're not going to have all the answers, you and I, Ash, but maybe we can start to kind of set the tone for at least giving doctors and teams a little bit of help to where do we start to see at least some progress or improvement. So
Sure. Absolutely.
So some of the things that I wanted to start with were some of the current trends that I have heard are that, one, there's just no applicants, right? I think it was Addison who said that there's like one, I can't remember, the statistic is like completely implausible that there's so many more jobs than there are applicants out there. And hearing that, we are in competition for these people. So there just is no applicants. I don't even know where to find them. Ghosting. I've heard a lot of ghosting going on. I was just talking to our buddy Justin Schmidt, and not only is ghosting, I think, happening, but even your office being used really just for a hygienist or a team member to leverage to potentially get a higher wage at their current office. Yep. I've heard that happening. And then we've all heard just people wanting tons and tons and tons of money for their positions that, we just feel like, how do we ever afford this? So I wanted to kind of just slowly address each of these to the best of our ability. And we'd love if people want to kind of add into the comment box or, when it's posted on DSN, if they have other things. Really, this is a brainstorming session, that I hope kind of continues as we all progress through this. But the first thing is, I do think we have to be really honest that we're not going to necessarily pull people out of obscurity for these job positions. It's going to be people who likely are the ones we all want, especially the doctors of DSN. I would say the people that we want probably are currently in jobs, a lot of them. So I do think we've got to be better about creating ads that are speaking directly to those kind of people. And Ash, I sent to you kind of an ad that we really redid completely in our offices because, the thought process being these people aren't even always leaving for more money. We want to believe that, but some of them, especially the ones that a lot of us want, are leaving because there's a need that they have. And I think the pandemic has revealed so much of the needs of people, whether it be change or appreciation or growth. And so I know for our hiring team, we really did, the ad got completely redone with really starting the whole thing off, as you saw, Ash, with questions that might resonate with very specific people. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Are you feeling stuck in your current position? Do you want to feel appreciated and know that your work matters? Are you desiring opportunity to work with a highly accountable team that serves the patients and each other first? Are you seeking growth? That we give you a prepared plan for growth. Are you looking for more of a flexible schedule? So in our offices, clinicians, back office people work 3/10s with 4 consistent days off a week. So we started with, we may have obviously narrowed the pool down, but hopefully we can find people that those sort of sentences speak directly to. And then we went in with our ad into more of who are we and what do we believe? So we kind of went strongly into, we believe in our core values. We believe in, here's the things we believe in: loving our teammates, and helping each of them find ways to be well-rounded and improve their own total wellness as a team member. We believe in benefit packages that include gym memberships, childcare stipends, financial planning sessions, and even mental health counseling. We believe in exceptional service to our patients. And we know that our team is a huge reason why our patients are so well taken care of. And we specifically just say in bold that our organization, it's not a right fit for everybody, but for those whose personal core values resonate with ours, we see magic happen every day with our patients and on our team. Then we include on our ad our doctor videos and our team videos, where I had professionally done recordings of team members who say, I love working in this organization because blah, 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 blah. So we have a clip that people can watch that's just a few, 30 seconds a minute of them to be able to see other team members who this exact ad resonates with. And so we had to completely redo it because we had been using a lot of the same ads that probably a lot of us have been using, and just finding that either the applicants were maybe just not exactly who we were looking for, or we did get a lot of potential people apply, but just not good fits for who we were. So I think the first thing is if you're getting no applicants, change the bait you're using, and then change where you're using it and how you're boosting it. Ash, anything on that?
Yeah, holy cow. So I have so many things. First of all, I love this ad because, like you said, so like this is completely different than kind of the typical, like, here's here's your job description, here's what we expect, here's the requirements, that type of thing. That's kind of the typical standard. And we have I'll get into this in a minute, but inside DSN, a bunch of those resources for you. And in some places they're still working, but like Absolutely. Dr. Like Summer, you're saying, like, if it's not working, change the bait. And this is so many good things in so many ways too, because first of all, it's helping to, if you're having a hard time writing an ad like this, maybe it's time to start considering, like, the culture of your office, right? Like, is this an opportunity where we know that the people are out there, and a lot of people are wanting to work and are able to get jobs virtually. So within a dental practice, working virtually is just not an option. So you're going to want to attract those people who don't want to be working virtually. And so you want to have a good culture for them to be in. So you're going to have to lay that foundation, right? And this is kind of an example of defining that culture and giving you an opportunity to fine tune and build that culture up. So then you can promote it to attract those people that you're looking for. I love this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and I agree with you, by the way. I do think that some people, I've been surprised too with some of my friends who, they can use similar bait. They can maybe boost the ad a little bit and they're still getting really good applicants. I just knew we weren't. I mean, we are truly in the crux of it. We're both in Colorado, it is real hard here too. So, And we also knew that we likely weren't going to get people with experience for a lot of these positions. And we're okay with that.
Did you have to change that mindset though, right? Like you're like, well, maybe that's not a non-negotiable anymore, that they have to have dental experience.
Yeah. And I think when we were titling ads certain ways, it used to work, but now it was truly segregating. I think a lot of the people who maybe are ready for a change. And they also, I love what you said too, by the way, they do want to be in person. They want to work with an accountable team that makes a difference. But it does have to start with us being those people first and foremost, and then changing the paradigm of, do we have to have somebody with experience in these positions, or are we willing to figure out how to do what it takes to take a really great core value fit and turn them into somebody who could be a great DA or scheduling coordinator? It is hard. Believe me, I'm in the same boat, but I would say that's the first thing is if your ads aren't working, potentially, what's the avatar of the person you're looking for, and how do you speak to them to where when they see this ad, they go, that's me. It feels like she's speaking to me. And I do think it's important that they got to see, like, this is who we are unapologetically. We believe in this. And I think that that's where sometimes we can accidentally, and I've been so guilty of this, slip into being desperate. And that can actually start to seep through even in our ads and the hiring process.
In your interviews, they know that you're desperate.
And that's where I'm like, oh, I feel like that just set me off on the wrong foot. And I feel like I'll be chasing a tail I just can never catch. And so I think that I have really shifted from, we may not get quite the breadth of applicants, but my hope is that the depth of them is really more so who we want to see. So I think that's the first one. And, second, and I don't know if you have anything more I should say before I move on to.
Oh, well, we got plenty to chat about. I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. The second one that I have heard a lot of is ghosting. Now I do think that there's so many different ways of kind of being able to, I think, address ghosting. But I think the first one is setting up an interview structure that's a little bit smarter, because we found that this was happening. And part of it was just because a lot of people were lookers or they were doing the leverage thing. We now have one specific team member, and she's actually on my admin team that does work remotely. And all Melissa does is she is watching constantly the inbox for the people who are funneling in. And she's checking them every single, twice a day. She's really checking that to see who's coming in. How did they answer the ad? Did they answer the questions at the bottom? And she is then immediately getting back to them with truly just a 3-minute phone call.
Yep.
And making it incredibly quick instead of like, let's set you up for a 15-minute, and that was our way of doing it. And we found that within the time of trying to set that up, things could get derailed so darn easy. So she really just does a quick 3-minute call that they can fit in anywhere. She literally will fit it in almost anywhere, because she'll say it's a 3-minute call. Because we just want to find out the quick things of, hey, what about the ad resonated with you?
Sure.
What are you looking for in your job search? And then if just on the phone, those 2 questions, it sounds like it at least makes sense, because we all know once in a while you can hear them on the phone and you're like, oh, shoot, I don't know if this is even a good fit right here. But she's really just looking about what resonated with you. What are you looking for? What are you seeking in this next role? Great. Then it goes directly to, I'm going to introduce you via email to our ambassadors of culture. These ambassadors of culture, they're going to take such great care of you. And from there, there's
is that what their titles are too? Like in the email, like this, we call this is our ambassador of culture. Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, and then we have just 2 people who she intros that person immediately to an email with a Calendly link. We have that Calendly link, that person schedules for their own 15-minute Zoom call with those 2 ambassadors. So if they don't move on and click the Calendly button and schedule their own 15-minute Zoom call, they maybe weren't all that serious.
Yeah.
But I think that if we don't jump on those ads right away, get the quick phone call to let them know, touch base, okay, we're ready. Here's the Calendly link, schedule yourself. We have set time every Thursday and Friday of the week with one of the ambassadors, if not both of the ambassadors of culture, that people can just click on the link, schedule with them. Then, Kristen and Julie can see that in their schedule. So within the week, we can get those first quick, touch points done. And I think ghosting happens often, well, for lots of reasons, really. But some of the reasons are delay of response, just delay in the process. So I don't know what you have on that, but
yeah. Do you guys do skills testing at all too for your positions?
So that comes, yes. And I know that there's a lot of people of like, when do you do them?
Yeah.
Because you hate.
I have a different philosophy, I think, than some people too. So I want to hear yours, and then I'm happy to hear.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Ash, I mean, like, I don't know if I'm always like, if it's working for you, you just keep doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
It just wasn't working for us because we were spending the money, and sometimes it wasn't working for us how it was. So once that applicant has scheduled that Calendly link, one or both of them, they quickly get on a Zoom call. That makes the barrier of entry super easy. We can see them just like you and I are right now. We can assess what they look like, how they talk, their mannerisms, things like that, how prepared they were for stuff, because they're going to ask them questions about what about the ad, what resonated with them, what are their personal core values. The whole goal is always, I'm always like, I want that interview person to be, the potential team member to be the one talking for the most part. So in that little, that time period is when, they are, that's when, and during that time is when they're kind of seeing like, yes, this feels good. We're both jiving. During that time, then they're solidifying, we're going to get you in next week, because we have every Thursday and Friday, which some of our slower times, available for these skill tests and in-office sit downs with these people.
Sure.
So that's when, so we want to make sure during that 15-minute Zoom call, is this person serious? Are there any non-negotiables that don't make sense? And then we get them in for the next, and then I can go into that in just a bit.
And that makes sense. So I think like you're saying too, and it depends on the position. I think that's important to note here. So with regards to skills testing, like back office positions, or, things where, maybe they're not specifically admin positions, I think that those, getting them into the office to do an in-person interview and then skills testing makes more sense after, the Zoom interview. My process, I mean, I'm constantly hiring for admin positions, right? I'm part of my side gig at GSD Queen. Anyway, so we are, but I love the mini phone interview, like just get them on the phone. I usually just call them up cold and say, hey, this is, or Gianna, if you're listening, Gianna calls them up and, just says, hey, this is Gianna, you applied for this position. I just want to touch base with you real quick, and kind of feels them out, because I think, like you said, like you're going to get a lot of feedback within that first call. Like if they don't even want to talk to you, if they're not even interested at all, that type of thing, then you can move on from there. But my question is for admin positions is, hey, you had applied for this position. Our next step is that you take a skills assessment. Would you be, it will take about an hour. You have to have a desktop or a laptop. Are you open to taking that skills assessment? And then from there, they tell me if they are or not. And then that's when I'm sending it to them. And I'm not doing a full interview until after they've taken the full assessment. Now, for all legal purposes, you're supposed to speak with them first and not base hiring off of the skills assessment. So that's why we talk to them first as well. But that saves us time with regards to those Zoom interviews. And for admin, it makes more sense, I think, in that capacity. When it comes to in-person, hands-on working, back office or hygienist, that type of thing, that's a little bit different. So that's how my process differs just a little bit. But I think that it, you just, like you said, find what works for you so you're maximizing time. I hate bringing people in for an interview and then later I learn that they don't know how to spell and I'm having them email constantly or something. It just doesn't make sense.
You read our minds. Is that we had the same problem, is like if we were getting them in a few times, talking to them a few times, sending a skills test later, we just found that all the different steps were making it to where, I do believe in, I know they say like hire slow, fire fast. the problem with that is I'm like, slow is kind of a subjective term.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not saying, like hire the first person that sends in a resume, but I think that the process needs to be streamlined to which you're maximizing the time and respecting the time of the other people. And if you guys are like me, my own team members are strapped for time themselves with everything. So for us, part of ghosting is, yes, that quick phone call, 3-minute phone call, move them to the 15-minute, the ambassadors of culture, kind of sit with that person, let the person feel kind of who we are, what we're about, do we jive and resonate? At that point, they get them scheduled usually within that 1 week period of time to come in for a skills assessment. And, for us, we've really changed it to where, gosh, I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody else when I'm saying this, but, and I have to admit, like sometimes people would come in for like their, whatever you want to call it, working interview, skills assessment, whatever you want to call it. And we were slight bit frazzled, I felt like. And so this person was coming in and it was like, you're super important. We're so happy you're here. People just, a little bit chaotic, or you kind of throw them into things. Well, it's funny because I was like, doesn't that go against everything that our core values are, which is servant's heart, disciplined and professional, accountability. Like, here's everything who we say we are. We get this guest into our office and we're a whirling dervish of madness sometimes. And I don't know if anybody else is like that. Maybe it really is just us, but
I don't think it's just you. I think I've worked in several dentist offices, and sometimes
and I just think to myself, like, if I would be on the other side of that 15-minute Zoom call with these ambassadors, who it was quiet when they were doing that, I was excited about the ad and about what they said, and wow, like what a great feeling. I came in, it's like, it's just a little unnerving potentially.
Yeah, you're so like, do I want to be like, you're trying, I mean, you were trying to sell yourself in that ad, and now you have this, you're still trying to sell yourselves. I mean, bottom line, in this in this climate, you are selling yourselves to employees. They have plenty of options out there, and you have to stand out, and making their first experience a chaotic one doesn't necessarily lend on the best foot.
Of exactly how I was thinking, is I was like, listen guys, I know to some degree, right, that is kind of who we are, but if we can't like give them this time, and really set kind of who we are, who they are, find out what their needs are, like, oh my gosh, I don't think we're not really setting ourselves apart from anybody. So we've really changed things. And I was like, so what are we about? And I'm like, let's treat this potential team member, honestly, like we would a new patient almost.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, like,
goodie bag, welcome to our work. I'm just kidding.
You say, oh, you're right. Yep. So like we really move from kind of that rush, like here's who we are, I'm gonna have you gonna like sit and kind of watch type thing, to we book these times every week blocked out for a true connection time to a potential new team member. And the whole thing is hospitality for us. And so when these team members come in, we put them into kind of, luckily our offices have been renovated and they're lovely, but we put them in a really lovely part of either office. And I know it sounds crazy, we really do, have we have everything set up for them. When they come, one of the ambassadors is immediately there welcoming them, bringing them to that room of, here's where we're going to have you set your stuff. That room is laid out with folders that are already ready, that have information in them. And we have a mug that has core values and things that wrap around it, ready, so that, here in just a bit, we're going to come back to this room and the three of us are going to sit and get to know each other, so you can feel the hospitality of who we are. And this all kind of came to my mind of like, that's brilliant. We have to be different. Yeah. And so and I think I listened to a podcast once about this, but now when one of the ambassadors is kind of making sure the room's ready, their folder's ready, their little tea mug is ready, The other one is taking them not just on a tour of our office, but truly on the stories of the office that resonate with the ad. So remember, we make magic every day here. So tell the stories as we do the tour. So here is where Amy, our rock star hygienist, you have no idea. She actually caught cancer in somebody just last year. She saved their life. The patient came back and brought us a ton of goodies because Amy caught this. His wife was so excited, which by the way, that really did happen. Like,
well,
literally,
yeah, you're not going to make things up. I mean, you guys, dentists you guys are actually doing good things, like brag about it.
Exactly. So then as they go and run around our office and go through the hallways, it's true. Like, this is our break room. But by the way, you can see on our whiteboard, this is not just any break room. By the way, this is where so much of the magic happens because we read books together every week. Can I tell you, Dulcie, she just moved up in her tiers. She grew another 2 tiers. We got to celebrate it right here last week, right? Which, by the way, how cool is for these ambassadors to tell the story of who we are as they're walking through the hall. And so we've changed it to where after that tour is done, they're going to sit in that little room. And it's not, the 2 of them against the other person on the other side of the desk. They're literally sitting in a little horseshoe shape with their cups of hot tea that they've made for them, with a folder that has information about who we are, what we're about. We have like little caricatures of our team made. And so, it's little cards of who we are, what we're about. We have a packet made of Meet the Team of all the doctors, all the team members, all in a folder. That is where then, Ashley, for us, after we kind of have a planned program of them getting to spend the first hour really getting to know the person and listening to the needs of the person. Why are they wanting to switch their job? Why are they wanting to join a different team or a different industry? What are they really looking for so that we can ensure, can we meet those expectations? Because that's the worst thing is often, I think, we can lose them in that interview process because we don't understand what their needs are. And by the way, they don't have clarity of what their own needs are.
Right.
So sometimes they don't even know why they're unhappy. So if we can help them understand, like, what are you seeking and why? I do think that sometimes just giving them that gift of clarity is really helpful to them.
Sure.
Whether it be, because most of the time they'll say money, but how many stories have we heard of, I offered more money and they still didn't come?
And I think that, is even shifting. Like, I think employees are becoming more and more aware that it's not money, and so I think that this process that you're setting up is brilliant. And to that note too, like I said, that there's so many more people who are wanting to work virtually, and there's so many more virtual positions. So you're having to woo this smaller pool of people who want to work in person. In that pool are a lot of times people who are switching careers entirely. I'm seeing a lot of that. People who are looking to they're like, I don't know, I've always thought dentistry might be cool. I've always, I have heard a lot of that. So, those are candidates that you're kind of needing to introduce to the profession as well. And why, your team and yourself have a passion for this and why it's important. Again, it's kind of like, presenting treatment a little bit, like, here's why your dental health is important. Here's why helping, patients in dentistry is important. We're literally, finding cancer and that type of thing, and preventing heart disease and all kinds of, that type of thing. So I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And that really is what it is like, do they feel us exuding those core values when they walk in, when they're introduced, when they're walking the halls? Are we giving them the time to treat them like we would a guest in our house, which I always joke, like, really, this is our house kind of. So, when they come, do they feel welcomed? Do they feel immediately surrounded by our core values? Are they palpable, I guess? And so it is during that time that what they do is, after they kind of get to know the needs, they're addressing it, they're talking about it, they will then have them sit and do that criteria corp test and print out. By the way, they'll tell them, I'm going to have you take it. Go ahead and print out two copies of the results. So they get to do all the testing. And as you know, criteria corp is fantastic for really every position. And so no matter what position they do end up doing that, we take one of the copies and we put it in their folder. Because the feeling being is, and I tell them, like, whether this works out or not, we really do want them leaving with an experience that they will remember. They gained clarity of what they wanted. Hopefully they'll get clarity of, gosh, I'm leaving my job because I need this, this, and this. They're going to get to know, here's strengths and weaknesses based on this criteria corp test. They're going home, with a little, thanks for coming and visiting, little pack. It's super cheap. None of the folders, the custom made folders in the mug was, I don't know, $1.50 or something. And depending on how many you're doing per year, it really isn't that much of a change, but does it hopefully set us apart when they're sitting in that room with these ambassadors and they're leaving with something? And here's the thing is I've really given license to my ambassadors of, if you get through that part and you're like, yikes, we don't need to go on to the true skills assessment part where they either go with the DA, the lead DA, or they go watch the lead hygienist, or, they sit with the front office lead. They don't have to. You can send them with that and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and, stop the interview here. I do think that this might not be, I think your expectations and ours maybe aren't going to align correctly. It has been a pleasure, being with you and hanging out. You learn from every single interview.
Yeah.
Hand them that. Golly, you may get patience from it, but you also might get people who say, hey, I'm not the right fit, but I have a buddy who this is like perfect for.
Yeah. I love
so
that.
I think it's so much like getting to know them and letting them see, does what I feel, does it resonate with who I am? But the expectations are laid out really clear of who we are too. And so there's no desperation. It's just, this is our cool little clubhouse, but we're pretty particular. If that's you, awesome. We welcome you. If it's not you, that's cool too, So that's really how we've changed to kind of change up the hiring process, but still streamline it, like you said, to be, I think, as efficient as possible.
That's amazing. I absolutely love it, Summer.
Yeah. So that's my part for no applicants and ghosting. I think that
I guess back to the ghosting, are you still having people ghost on you? Like if they're the ones, I guess, did them scheduling minimize the ghosting part, I guess?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was exactly it. Is there's been a few who gotten to the 15-minute call and the two ambassadors were like, that didn't go great. So we just minimized, gosh, that took 18 minutes of time, if even. So that's helped quite a bit for the ghosting. The wanting a ton of money, I think there's been so many good posts on this, by the way, in DSN, I've noticed, of how to think about it. My buddy Matt Slivka had a really good point about when you extrapolate it out over a year, what does that mean? Can you afford it? Could you just afford to pay your current team members more? But I think when team members are wanting to come in, for more money, I don't say don't acknowledge that, because I think it's incredibly important. It's a need, and I get it. I get that people are looking out for that right now. So I think addressing like, hey, I can see that this is really important to you to hit these financial goals. I can't wait to hear, the value that you can bring for those goals. I really can't wait to hear about what you do and what you can bring to this team to bring that level of value. And I think that's a great open conversation to have.
Sure. Yeah.
And for us, we have the tier system that kind of helps us be
very
able to
laid out.
Yeah. So our tier system, if we get a DA that comes in who wants, I would like $30 an hour, and I've heard more than that, it's like, awesome. That is so exciting. I am sure that you bring so much value to every appointment with every patient. Here's how we kind of look at our pay scale so that we can really help you grow and create a track for you so that you can continue growing. So let's lay that out, and you can kind of help me see where are you at currently to see. That way it's just completely objective, and be excited about what they think they can bring value wise.
Yeah. I love that. And then you're showing them like, this is what our dental assistants are doing. Is that what you can do? Because that's what, and then, because that would be amazing. We love our dental assistants who do these things.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it, is if they really can get anywhere close to that, then awesome. Yeah. I'm like, why not bring them in and then, produce more? The onus is on us then to utilize them well and correctly to do that.
Yep.
Sometimes I think that they will come in and, here's the thing is they may not be able to show quite the value. And they may look at, what you have objectively and be like, oh, I'm not quite there. No, I can't do those. Hey, no problem. If you still think you're a really strong, culture, you want to be a part of this clubhouse, we can come up with a way. Like we have growth tracks and we will.
What if we got you there?
Yeah, we'd love to talk to you about that in the next 90 days. Would you be open to that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think there's ways that we can come across not chasing our tail or setting up maybe a power dynamic that's unfavorable by utilizing conversations more like that with people. So I don't know, what have you heard or done with that?
I mean, I think it's just all about managing expectations. That's the biggest thing. And I think just the fact that the tier system is ideal because it's literally laid out. And like I said, just managing expectations, because when you tell someone up front what a role is going to include, we're hiring for this role, or also even just discussing your budget, like, hey, here's where we want to be. And it seems like it's a little bit lower, are you willing to work if we're including a path for growth? It's just about being transparent and also asking questions with regards to, hey, do you have any other interviews lined up? Do you have any other offers on the table? Because, we want to be able, if you're selected, to be competitive. So let us know, like, are you considering another position? I've just tell me up front, you know what I mean? Instead of going through the whole process. I've done that a couple of times now. Sweet, hire them. And then they're like, oh, I accepted another position. And I'm like, why did I ask if you were considering another position? Especially in this climate, people are getting scooped up. So asking, laying out expectations and finding out what they're considering and why are things that will save you time and frustration as well.
So good, Ash. And actually, now that you say that, that is part of that very, very beginning non-negotiables conversation is like, really, and we said the same thing, like, are you entertaining other positions? What are you like, what's your minimum that you would be wanting to switch for? Is it strictly money or is it also flexibility? Is it benefits? What is it? That's so good. I'm so glad you brought that up because I think we don't want to be transparent. It's almost like we want to stick our head in the sand, but then it's like, gosh, then you're surprised on the other end and you went through all that time and energy. And
I think that people want to work for people too, not just an organization, not just like a boss, like, they want to, and I think the what you're doing with the culture is brilliant. And then, like I said, the transparency, like, hey, we're looking to hire, here's what we're looking to do, that helps people understand where they might be asking is possibly too high or if it's just not the right fit or whatever it might be, it just saves a lot of time.
Well, and one thing too that I've seen people do that I think can be really helpful is depending on the demographic of who you're hiring. If you're having, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old assistant, sometimes what matters to them does not matter to somebody who's 45. Yep. And so I do think really being smart about, there's not one approach, recognizing, in some of these like deep need conversations, don't get me wrong, my culture, my ambassador cultures aren't like, they recognize who they're talking to, but sometimes you can take some of these people and everything that matters to them is per hour. Yep. They don't care about 401ks. They don't care about any of that stuff. They're still under their parents' insurance. So you can also say it's blank amount without any benefits or blank with benefits. Like for us, we have a flexible benefit package that it's just a amount per year that's given that they can use monthly towards gym membership, cleaning lady, anything that actually helps them be a better employee while they're here. And that's maybe for a different topic, or different talk. But, if they don't want to use any flexible benefits, well, that equates to an extra $1 per hour. And so, sometimes you can even lay out like, hey, if you don't want to utilize any of this healthcare, QSERA, flexible benefits, you just want the strictly per hour. Sometimes you can even do something like that because that is for them how they see things. So I think that's one strategy too, when they're wanting a ton, is really helping them understand what it looks like in its entirety. But I do think too, it's really, really important. Some of the younger generation too, I find their needs are very different, and it isn't about money.
Yeah.
It really is a lot of times about, I know that we don't always have flexible schedules, but I know a lot of offices are able to give a little flexibility of 3 days off, 4 days off. They alternate their schedule. They have mom hours. Our friend Kelly Dove has been really brilliant about how she structured her own work schedule and attracted great moms who work the same schedule with her, I think. And so I do think, finding out what the needs are of that specific person, whether they're 19 or 45, I think that's really helpful as well, in talking to people who maybe say they want a ton of money, but behind it, there's actually a lot of other needs that they've never even really thought about.
Sure. I love that as well.
Okay. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I think those are really the things that I've heard the most, maybe things that are up and coming with hiring, ways to combat, I think, some of those concerns. But yeah, I think the thing I always go to and I tell everybody is like, they're leaving their position in search of something.
Yeah.
Find out what that something is. And if you can be the one to help them even identify it, you're instantly more trusted in those people's eyes. Which is probably an Alistair thing. So so anything else though? Anything else? I know. I'm like, it's right. Aren't we all students of Alistair somehow? But anything else on those, I should say, when it comes to ads, hiring, interview, skills test, anything you think that we missed along the way?
I mean, just a little thing going back to with regards to kind of making that final hiring decision. Who is making the final hiring decision at your office? Is it is it you? Is it their direct supervisor? Who are you having make that final decision?
So I let the department heads, because usually they're in those skills tests. The department heads get a huge say-so. I usually do like to, at least even for just a little bit, make sure that there's no little heckles coming up for me.
Red flag, red flag.
Yeah, just once in a while, after you've done it for a while, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And other people have missed them. And then they're always like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know. But I do think that for me, it's so much of the department head and those ambassadors, the hiring team. But then I kind of just do the final stamp of approval. What I will say too, is as well as I do, and I'd love to hear your thought on this to kind of finish everything up with this, you have to have that hiring process ready. So they went through all of this, and sometimes you can condense it to a week. By that skills test, you're like, they're fantastic. If you don't have your hiring documents ready to go, it's like a patient. If they leave, they may be going to a job interview tomorrow. So I do think it's important. I'm not saying make hasty decisions, but I don't know about you, Ash. Sometimes between the skills assessment test, the interview process, having them come in for that working skills test, you do know. We have had some people that we were just like, this is great. And I'm always like, the worst thing that can happen is, it doesn't work out.
Right.
But in this hiring culture, if you have a really good fit and you're not ready with that hiring process, in the least, what I would say is making sure that you let that person know, we have really enjoyed getting to know you. We think you're a fantastic candidate. We're going to run it through all the final checks. We'll get a letter to you one way or the other by tomorrow, or a letter to you, by tomorrow, something along those lines, and then do it. So, I think somebody just quickly asked, like, do you hire on the spot? We have. We actually have hired on the spot, because there's been a few people that we were just like, we know it. There's been a few people that we waited. We just did all the checks. We made sure we looked at the criteria corp stuff. We really made sure everything made sense. And then we just sent the letter out the very next day. And our hiring letter, it really does discuss and make sure to solidify hours, pay, the 90-day kind of probationary period, what's required before start date, all of that stuff. And then we just set a date of, ask us any questions at this email. And then please review this. And if you can have this back to us by blank time on this day, we would appreciate it greatly.
Instead of that's a great note, because in the past, kind of one of the things was, okay, we'll get back to you, and kind of making people wait a little bit again, so you don't sound desperate. And it's funny you mentioned that, because literally in the last 2 weeks, 3 people I've had, like, let's just, if you like them, go ahead and offer them on the spot, because of these, again, people are getting snatched up. And my big thing is trust your gut, like go with your gut, and just go for it. Honestly, that's where my mind has shifted a little bit, literally in the last like 2 weeks on this. But
well, and that's where it's like, I don't think either of us are saying like they walk in the door and they look decent and you're like, you're hired. But I mean, I do think that if you have if you've done the time and energy to put in good systems in the forefront, change your ad, change how you interview, make sure that you guys are really present, have somebody really present and trustworthy to do the interview process. It may need to be you. I mean, for a long time, it was me. And sometimes I am still one of the first people who still meets them, just for sake of time. But I do think it's important to have all of that streamlined, so that when they come to that working interview, if they're really prepared and ready, and they've been intentional, and their test scores look great, I'm like, have it ready, have it ready to go, and be ready to kind of get that done. And your hiring process, having it look clean and professional, I think is just so important as well. And that's where, for us, it's like, we want that person to come in their first day ready to go, looking great, ready to serve patients. We want to exude that with every step of the process in our hiring as well. So
love it. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything, did we not address? Or
Alex had a question. Alex Givens, you had a question about screening items for scheduling and insurance coordinators. I do have a list of questions for billing that I can share with you. Do you have any if you're hiring for a scheduling or insurance coordinator, do you have any tips or tricks that, with regards to their skills assessment that you're having them do?
Yeah, so I mean, I do think that having them truly shadow one of your best scheduling ninjas, they don't need to be talking the whole time with them, but really just watching as to how they're doing it and what they're doing, and watching. I've got a couple scheduling ninjas that they're really methodical about how they schedule. My insurance biller is a completely kind of separate position, but then you can actually have them do some skills tests. For us, they actually do go on Open Dental. We have them learn some of the modules and see how quickly can they learn some of the basic modules, learn some of the basics in that skills test. We don't have anybody actually thrown into the role before they've done all the pre-work. So we're pretty particular when it comes to the true onboarding, which will be kind of one of our next sessions. Really particular about kind of the boot camp of what they need to be doing behind the scenes before they ever get to schedule the patient or talk on the phone, I guess I should say. So my question is, yes, I think during that skills test, I think the Criteria Corp test, by the way, does help. And I feel like maybe, was that a question somebody asked? I think a lot of us use Criteria Corp. And if you search DSN, I think that's been posted a decent amount about the tests that we all use.
I'll put it in the comments of this webinar as well.
Okay.
It's not cheap, but that it's like $2,000 for the year for I think unlimited tests if you have like less than 25 employees. But it's, man, it sounds expensive, but the investment and the time it saves you is priceless.
Yep. And it's true. It rings true.
Every time I've gone against the test, it's bitten me in the ass.
Ditto. You literally just read my mind. It's so worth it. We had 2 people who came in at the exact same time with 2 completely different tests for the scheduling position to that gentleman or that person who asked that question. And one did not work and one did. And the one that did not work, her test showed it was not probably going to work. So within 90 days, it did not work. So I do think that that's where, like, if you're taking the time to get the stuff done, you can hire more quickly just because of those sort of things. So yeah, was there any other questions though?
I don't think so. I think that's all the questions I have out there. I know, and I'm excited. Like you said, we're kind of having a series coming up because of the climate we're in. You know, we're kind of wanting to provide you guys with some resources with regards to, you know, finding the right team, how to onboard them correctly, you know, maintaining that team, and you know, that it's just such a foundation, obviously, of the practice. And Summer has some great things lined up for the next few webinars in these next couple of months.
Yeah, we're excited. Well, and I don't know about you, Ash, but every time we do things like this, like, it makes me always want to figure out better ways too, you know.
In my head too, I'm like, how can I tweak this? You gave me so many good ideas. I love it.
I know. Well, and that's just it, as I was learning from you. I love the questions. I'm like,
my Deal with Success Network is awesome.
I know. Well, and that's why I'm like, I think we're just getting it started. You and I don't have all the answers either. Hopefully we just spur some thoughts, and then, you know, comments can start to build, and we can all, you know, help each other try to figure out how to kind of still succeed despite this hiring crisis. So hopefully there was some good, helpful stuff. There will be some great links for ads, and, you know, kind of as we talked through the process, hopefully some other links that might help you guys. Obviously throw any questions out onto the chat, or out into the comments as well, and we'll try to get to those too.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Summer. Thank you, everyone who watched with us today, and we'll be posting with regards to our next one very soon. So keep an eye out.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Summer. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.